Today, we are making sticky garlic chicken. If you'd like to follow along with this recipe, you will need the following. 1 cup light brown sugar, 2 tablespoons chili sauce, 1/2 cup soy sauce, 6 minced garlic cloves or the jarred garlic, 1½ teaspoons ginger, 2 teaspoons pepper, 2 pounds chicken, cut up, or you can use something like chicken legs. Preheat your oven to 350 and let's get the show started.
Opinions expressed on ACB Radio are those of the respective program contributors and cannot be assumed to serve as endorsements of products or views of the American Council of the Blind, its elected officials, or its staff.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Herbie's Cooking Corner for January 4th, 2022. Wow, this is the first call of the new year. Last time we met was last year, which was just last week, so that's all good. Today, I'm going to be making a very simple yet very tasty recipe, sticky garlic chicken. And I'm going to basically get into all that in a little bit, what we will need. And first of all, I want to thank ACB Media for streaming the event, and I also want to thank Belinda for hosting the event. Alright guys, so let's get started with the recipe. What we're going to need is just a few amount of ingredients actually. Light brown sugar, chili sauce, soy sauce, ground ginger, garlic, and of course the chicken. Not to mention a pan for baking in the oven to preheat. What I've already done is turn the oven to 350. That is the temperature that we want it at. Let's get started. And the first thing we need is 1 cup of light brown sugar. So brown sugar, of course, is not the same as white sugar. It comes in a completely different type of package. And except when you put it in the wrong place, then it makes it that much more of a challenge to find. And so as I was saying, the brown sugar, like I said, it's a totally different type of consistency, type of flavor. And okay, my brown sugar has actually literally walked away from me, and that is a problem as I had it earlier. Then I will come back to that in just a moment. Let me look at one other place where it would be at. Okay, I think this recipe is going to turn out a little bit more interesting than what I had intended it to be. All right. Well, then let's move on to the chili sauce. So this comes in 2 different types of bottles. The one I have is kind of an interesting, it's not a true circle shape. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's like a octagon type shape. It's very small. And what we need for that is going to be basically 2 tablespoons of the chili sauce. So why don't we actually get out my tablespoon? And this is, for those of you, if you don't have your measuring spoons labeled, it's one of the bigger measuring spoons. There's like your tablespoon, your teaspoon, and then you've got things in between. What we're going to use is, like I said, a tablespoon. I have the ones from Blind Mice Mart that actually say 1 T and then the letter T for telling me it's a tablespoon. I'm going to take the lid off of the chili sauce. Now this is an unopened bottle, so that means the first thing I'm going to have to deal with is the seal. So I'm actually able to take my fingernail and peel back part of it, just to take the seal right off. If that does not work, some seals are just incredibly tough. Either a knife blade lightly touching the edge or a pair of scissors can also help. Okay, now that we've done that, let's take off the lid. And I should have mentioned too, this is kind of like a glass bottle. And I did have problems with a lot of barcode readers identifying this particular product in one of the bottles that I had, and this one I think did a little bit better. So now I'm holding the tablespoon over the bowl, and I'm going to, and the chili sauce also over the bowl. I'm just going to pour the bottle by tilting it so it'll start coming out. There we go. This stuff is really thick, so it kind of pours out slowly. So we kind of have to tilt it all the way. Okay, but that's okay. And if we have extra, that's not going to hurt anything. Okay, that's tablespoon number 1. Now, tablespoon number 2. So now that we are done with that, I'm kind of using the tablespoon again to the edge of the bowl, and we're going to pour out any extra. Now we're going to put that in the sink. Some got on my hands, so we're just washing it off. And there we go. Okay, had to find my dish soap there. Next thing we need is soy sauce, and this calls for a 1/4 cup. Soy sauce again comes in a very similar bottle to the chili sauce, except the one now that I have is plastic. Now, first thing we should do is actually put the lid on the chili sauce, and let's go ahead and put it in the fridge where it will not go bad. Most of these sauces you generally have to put in the fridge once you've opened them. You don't until you open them though. So like once you get the chili sauce and the soy sauce, you can leave it in the pantry or wherever until you are done with it. There you go. Okay, so let's take a look at my soy sauce here. This comes up as a flip top lid. This is the one I got from Walmart. It's the naturally brewed soy sauce. And let's see, how do we get this paper off? Can we turn the lid? Yes, we can. Just by some vigorous turning here, we can make a little bit of progress. Oop, my bowl is going to flip over. That's not good. This paper, let's see if we can actually peel back the way I could the other. And it's going to be difficult. Well, there we go. Okay, now I got the lid off. Now, 2 things you need to know. First of all, we still got paper sticking out. I'm going to try to get the rest of that off in a minute here, but the first thing we got to contend with is the soy sauce has a protective film over the top that we need to get off first before we can actually do anything with it. So I'm just trying to peel back and peel it off. Okay, it takes a little bit of strength here. Unfortunately, sometimes you need athleticism in the kitchen. And maybe some people are better at these things than others too, like if you have sharper nails. Okay, so now I'm going to try to find my 1/4 cup, which I just had a minute ago. There it is. I hate it when things walk away from you. I'm going to pour in to the cup the soy sauce. And again, I'm holding the cup over the bowl so that way any extra spills are going to go into the bowl already and not onto the countertop. And that can really help a lot. Same with the bottle. Okay. Now that that's done, next thing I'm going to need to do is try to get the rest of the paper off so I can put the lid back on. This should only take a minute, and if it looks like it'll take longer, then we'll just have to come back to it. Now, do we have any questions?
Yes, you have Danette.
Question, are you putting like the chili sauce and the soy sauce in the same bowl right now?
Yes. Okay, so I got the
raised hand.
All right.
Lynn, you can go ahead.
Hey Herbie, it's Lynn. I want to know, I don't use chili sauce or brown sugar. Can I do it without it, or can I use some other, like honey instead of sugar?
You know, that's a great question, especially since I might have to try the same thing too if I can't find my brown sugar. My cooking is usually good at following recipes exactly. If anybody knows of any good alternatives to this combination, feel free to raise your hand and chime in.
Right, because I don't do spicy stuff. I don't do that chili sauce,
So,
but I could
yeah.
use honey. But I could use organic honey.
And this recipe is not meant to be spicy, by the way. So I wanted to mention that as well. It's, when done correctly, it's supposed to be sweet. So these things are combined, so it's not like the spiciest part can actually be the garlic, and even that isn't necessarily spicy. So
Okay, you have two other raised hands. Do you want to take those, or do you want to move?
I do, yes.
Okay. All right, Carrie, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to mention myself, I don't use sugar, but there is like brown sugar monk fruit, or you can buy brown sugar Splenda. So, Lynn, those could be options. The other thing is there is something, it's called Bragg's liquid aminos. It is a more natural source than soy sauce that is very similar to soy sauce.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for that, Carrie. And
right,
I believe
and
we
we
have one
have
other
Tori.
person. Tori, hello, Tori.
Hello. I was just going to say the main difference between brown sugar and white sugar is the sweetness. So it's not going to affect very much except for exactly how sweet it is, which if you're concerned about it not being quite sweet enough, you can either use just a little more sugar, or if you don't want to do that, put some kind of thing like honey or some kind of agave syrup or maple syrup or something like that, just a tiny bit to make it slightly sweeter.
So I can still use the same amount of regular sugar, but if I need to make it a bit sweeter, add like a little bit of maple syrup or something.
Yeah, just a very small amount just to make it slightly sweeter, because the main difference is that the brown sugar is unrefined and still retains a lot of the sweetness.
All right. Well, that is good because we do have plenty of white sugar here and we do have maple syrup. So, all right, we're going to make this work then, guys. But I never had doubts we would. Thank you, Tori.
It's okay. I use brown sugar all the time.
Okay, so this actually, I lied. This actually calls for a half cup of soy sauce. So I already used 1/4 cup. So 2/4 cup will make us 1/2 cup. But otherwise, you would just use the half cup. That's what happens when you get busy yakking and don't look at the recipe. So I'm pouring in the other half. Now, this is not as thick as the chili sauce. You know, it would really help if I actually took off the lid. So for recipes like this, you know, like if you're, the way to use the soy sauce, if you're just sprinkling it over like say fried rice, you can use the lid with the hole in it. But if you're pouring into a measuring cup, I recommend you take the lid off and pour directly from the bottle. Okay, so let's pour that extra cup in there. All right, there we go. And now I'm going to put that in the fridge, and let's see. Next up, I believe, is going to be our garlic.
You do have a raised hand. Lucy?
Just one little tiny comment. Be very careful with soy sauce because it stains very, very badly your clothes.
And you also have another hand, Marilee.
Hi, Herbie. How you doing? My question is, when you're measuring things like the soy sauce and the chili sauce, you said you held the spoon or the cup over the bowl. Are you holding it over the bowl that you're mixing your ingredients in, or a separate bowl? Because if you pour too much, then you're pouring extra into your ingredients. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you were saying, and the answer is I just use the regular bowl. I wouldn't have, if I was using it in a separate bowl, it would not at least help me because I wouldn't know that, I mean, I'd still have the excess no matter what. So,
yeah, but your excess is going in a plain bowl, not in with your brown sugar and your soy, your other ingredients.
Yes, but then there's still the matter of how do you get the original amount from the extra bowl to the regular bowl without including the excess.
Well, all right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that works for some things. Like, say, for instance, if you're cracking eggs, and that's a very good question. If you're doing something like cracking eggs, that works because you can fish out, like, say, hard eggshells before you pour the mixture into the other bowl. If you are not using measuring cups, or for instance, then maybe you might want to use Marilee's method, where you're kind of, I mean, if you're using the measuring cups, most of the time with pouring, you're probably not going to have that much excess to begin with. And there are some things where it matters more. For instance, like baking, sometimes you have to be more precise with certain things. For this recipe, so long as the excess equals the amount that you originally have anyway, I mean, it's not going to be a big deal. So,
Okay, you have one other raised hand, Carrie.
all right.
Hey, Herbie, I think what that caller was mentioning is if you held the measuring cup over an extra bowl and filled the measuring cup and then dumped the measuring cup
Right.
into your sauce bowl, you could avoid the extra. But I do appreciate your comment about, the little extra amounts don't matter as much in this recipe as some. But that other method is a great technique if you're needing to be precise or wanting to make sure you have the half cup and not a half cup plus 2 tablespoons because you spill over the top.
All right, that totally makes sense. I get the comment now, and thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that does make sense. If you need preciseness, then by all means. Like I said, this recipe, you don't need that much preciseness. So, but that is a good technique. Just pour. I would again make sure though, if you're going to do that, still use a big enough bowl so that way the excess is going to go into the bowl and not like all over the counter. Okay, so let's move on to talking garlic. So there are really 3 methods of garlic, primary methods of garlic you can get. The cloves, the powder, or the minced garlic. Now, for the sake of the recipe, I have actually, in the call, I've chosen the minced garlic today. If you do regular garlic, it calls for 6 cloves, and this is, again, something that's also going to be based upon your personal preference. How much garlic do you want? Chanel and I do like a lot of garlic. 6 cloves is plenty, if not even maybe a bit too little. Again, this is one of those, for something like this is also going to be, adjusted to your personal preference on how garlicky you want it to be. So the minced garlic comes in a jar, and I've peeled back the paper. If you do regular garlic, it is easily minceable. You can get a garlic mincer. But the disadvantage is, and this is why I didn't want to do it for today's calls, you have to peel back the paper for each clove, mash it in the thing, and then get the excess off the bottom into the bowl and all that. So for this garlic, what we're going to do is drain off some of the excess water here. And I'm just going to take a spoon and put a couple of good handfuls into our mixture. So let's see, garlic number 1, and this will just also become our mixing spoon as well. Try to get drain out some of the excess water, and we have another hand.
Yes, Carrie, go ahead.
Carrie, yes.
Hi, Herbie. I guess I'm full of comments today. I just wanted to let people know out there, for years I've had a garlic press from Pampered Chef. And the awesome thing about it is you don't have to pre-peel the garlic. And it's really easy to clean and get the whole, the peeling stuff out of the hole and everything. And it comes with a little thing to, cleaning tool and stuff. So, there are a big difference in the types of garlic presses you might buy if you want to use cloves of garlic.
Okay.
So yeah, that's just something for people to be aware of. Because my daughter, when she moved in, she had one and it's crummy. Like, yeah, no, I won't use that one.
All right, well, there you go, my birthday list. If anybody wants to start keeping track, the garlic press from Pampered Chef, because that's like a lot more fancier than the one I have, which you kind of can still use the peel, but you have to contend with it more, and yeah, so all right. Perfect, Carrie. That is actually very good information to have, and I tell you what, guys, for the remainder of the questions, if you have a question about a cooking technique, let's do that now. If you have recommendations or whatnot, let's save those for when we got the chicken in the oven, and that'll really help move the call along if that's all right with people. If you have to run really fast, like I know Tori said she may have to run at any moment, I totally understand, but that would be my preference if you can save questions about what I'm doing now for while I'm cooking, and then we will do more general chit chat in a few minutes, because I promise we will have time for that.
Tori does have her hand raised.
I just wanted to ask quickly about the your chili sauce. Does it matter what kind you use, and if so, what kind you use, so I can see if I can get it?
It does not matter. I just got anything that was labeled chili sauce. I was looking at some of the ingredients, and I wonder if some are more vegetarian or vegan than others.
Yeah, some are. Yeah.
And I didn't really think about that until I actually, started looking at some of the ingredients. I was trying to read a label the other day on one of them. So it could, if you're good at finding out the, interesting labels or whatever, then that could matter. But otherwise, you can just use any kind of thing, any chili sauce. I just got a regular mainstream one. I don't remember the specific brand off the top of my head.
I just checking because I was going to try your recipe out on some tofu at some point. So.
All right. Well, you have to let me know how that works.
Will do. You'll have to send me the exact amounts so I can know the measurements.
I will do that. I do podcast these calls, and I do also include show notes, but I'll tell you something else that we're going to be doing in just a little bit here, as we've got to measure out our ginger. So this calls for 1.5 teaspoons of ginger. So I got ground ginger. This one that I got from Walmart comes in a square bottle. I've seen them in even smaller bottles, and that's what I thought I'd ordered. So I'm going to have a lot of ginger here, but that's all right. So I'm going to take the lid completely off the bottle. The first one had the protective film over it. I already took that off earlier, so I wanted to make sure it was ginger. We're just going to head and pour. Again, I'm doing this over the main bowl that I'm working in because I don't care if there's extra. Extra is good, and this stuff does not pour out easily. Come on. Am I going to have to scoop you out? No, if I shake it, it comes out. Okay, let's see if I can scoop you out. Okay, so this stuff scoops out better than it does shake out. And even when it has a hard time coming out of the spoon. Okay, we can add in maybe just a touch more. So we want it good, nice and gingery. The ginger is probably like the predominant flavor in this recipe. So if you don't like ginger, so that's what gives it its flavor is the ginger. Okay, now it calls for some seasoned pepper. I'm just going to kind of guesstimate on that because I can. And I'm using instead of the grinder, we're going to use an actual thing of pepper that's in a little carton here. So just so you know, we will not get the recipe done in time for a live taste test, but I will let everybody know on the Coffee Clutch, how it turns out. So I'm just going to, don't want to overdo the pepper, so just kind of pouring in a little bit. There we go. I think it calls for like 1/2 teaspoon. All right. Next, we need to go back in now and add in the sugar, because that was the one thing I did not get a chance to do. And then we're going to mix all this before adding it to the chicken. So we're going to try this with white sugar, and we're just going to see how this works out.
And Peggy Ann has a question when you're ready.
All right, Peggy Ann, yes.
How much ginger are you supposed to put in?
1.5 teaspoons.
Okay, is that ground ginger or?
Yes.
Okay, 1.5 teaspoons. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to do, so to give you an idea, a cup of sugar is quite a bit. So this should give you an idea of just how much sweetness there is in this recipe. So it's very much a combination of sweet and savory. And just trying to get the sugar out into the cup here. And we'll add in, kind of got a good 3/4 cup. We're going to add in just a little bit more, and that should make it a cup. Okay. Now we're going to stir in the ingredients. And now while I'm stirring, if you have any questions or general stuff, this is a good time for that.
Annette has a question.
All right.
So did you use brown sugar and granulated white sugar?
No, I just used white sugar because I could not find my brown sugar.
Okay. Cool. And now you're just mixing it up and gonna roll the chicken in there? Or
Yes.
something? Okay.
Yep. Now what we're going to do is we're going to roll the...
question. Can I use like chicken legs?
Yes. I've done it with chicken legs before. That turns out really well. I'm going to use the boneless chicken today. What it does call for is 2 pounds of chicken cut up. And it calls for you to turn it every 10 to 15 minutes. We're not going to be that precise. I don't think it's quite as necessary when you're baking in the oven. But what we are going to do is I'm going to use boneless chicken thighs here. And this could get a little bit better. We're going to use boneless chicken thighs. And that will work for us. And I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on the sugar. All right, so I'm going to now get out the chicken. For this, like I said, I got boneless chicken thighs, but you can use whatever you want. Boneless chicken, chicken breast. It calls for these to be cut up. I'm not quite sure. I think it depends on what chicken you're using as to whether you'd actually want to cut it or not. Chicken thighs don't really require cutting the same way, I don't think, as like chicken breast would, just because, they are thicker. But, again, this goes to your personal preference as to what you want to do. So I'm going to peel the plastic off of the chicken here. Now, questions arise as to whether you should wash your chicken or not. The answer is no, don't run it under the sink or anything like that because you do spread bacteria. But what you can do is dry the chicken off with a paper towel before putting it in the mixture. Now, I'm going to put this in a 13 by 9 pan. I have gone ahead and greased it. I'm going to go ahead and take a paper towel and just get a really good generous sized one. I'm going to take the chicken, just give it a quick dab. These are smaller chicken thighs, so we definitely don't need to cut them. Roll it in the sauce mixture just very lightly, put it in the pan. Chicken thigh number 2. I think these are thighs. These are very thin breasts. Actually, I think they give me very thin breasts. Sometimes when you do shop, you are at the mercy of other people and what you get. Anyway, it'll turn out good either way. So I'm just dabbing each piece of chicken dry. We're going to then just roll it in the mixture. And then, like I said, we're just going to let her bake. So that is what I am doing now. So some side dishes you can do with this, anything you want. Green beans might go good with this, or, some kind of potato like hash browns or mashed potatoes, or you could even do garlic mashed potatoes, for some extra garlic. Nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. Okay, so this does use up quite a bit of sauce, so it's, of course this is sticky garlic chicken. It's going to be, very messy. But, guys, a little secret, which you probably already know, the messier the thing, usually the better tasting it is, so. Okay, I'm still going to have an excess of sauce once we're done with this. I don't really have much room for any more chicken. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place this in the pan. And then a few minutes from now, probably about 20 minutes, I will check it, give it at least one flip, so that way the sauce has a chance to cook evenly. I probably should have maybe used some foil for that, but that's okay. And we're putting it in the oven. All right. Set timer for 22 minutes. Set timer for 22 minutes. 22 minutes. Thank you. So we're just going to pour the excess in the sink. You could also store the excess sauce if you wanted. I don't have a use for it. And of course, this also goes well with a good cup of coffee as well, if you drink that. And so now our dinner is baking. Lunch, dinner, breakfast. I guess it's Berliner. Not Belinda, but Berliner. Okay, do we have any questions?
We do not.
We do not. All right. What we're going to do is I'm going to get all the excess sugar off of my arm here, a little bit splattered while I was stirring. So there we go. So yeah, basically what we did is, sugar, garlic, chicken, of course, like the chili sauce, and once you mix it all together, it's really not that spicy. The good thing is, if you don't believe me, mix the sauce together first and try it for yourself before you pour it over the chicken or whatever. And then that way you can also do things like if you want to make it sweeter, you can. If you think it needs more garlic, you can do that, because we don't do the chicken until the very last step. This recipe does not require precision as much as some of your baking recipes do.
Okay,
Now
Chanel
that,
has been raised.
all right, Chanel.
Yeah, so I was wondering, did you or could you pour the excess sauce? Maybe not even pour it on the top right away, but let the chicken cook for whatever the 20 minutes and then pour it on the top?
I probably could.
Because I've heard that does better. Like if you bake all the sauce in at once, it might burn, but I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not the one who does the baking. So
no,
yeah,
that
I'm
actually
curious.
probably would work. I don't see why that wouldn't work, actually, and I thought about doing something like that.
Because then you'd have even more of the flavor. But anyway.
Yep. Oh, that's something to try for next time, for sure.
Oh, you got rid of the sauce?
Yes.
Oh, fine.
Now, a new thing we have going on, guys, is a brand new mailing list that Courtney has set up. So for those of you that don't know, we actually have three cooking related, actually I take that back, 4 cooking related calls here on ACB. 3 actual cooking ones, and then 2 related to cooking. So we have Wake, Make, and Bake with Janine tomorrow. That's going to be at the same time. I don't recall what she is baking. And then we have In the Kitchen with Courtney and Carrie. And you heard Carrie earlier, as she has a lot of useful tips and has done a lot more fancier cooking than I have. But we are trying to really combine our efforts, and we've now got, thanks to Courtney, an ACB Cooks mailing list. And you can subscribe to that, ACB Cooks plus subscribe. That's ACB Cooks, the plus sign, subscribe at groups.io. And what are you going to get? Well, I don't know. The others, all 3 of us, I know we're going to be sharing our recipes. I'm also going to be including the call archives. I know that the podcasts can be delayed, so you will get first probably on the list. Now, they will be the edited form. You don't get the unedited call. You don't get the pre-call social banter or anything like that. And it'll be my editing. I don't know if ACB, they may do additional editing on their end as well. So I'll be sending out links to that on the groups along with the recipe that I did for the day. And I'll have that ready for everybody, usually within a day or 2 after the call. Be sure to subscribe to that. That's ACB Cooks, all one word, plus subscribe at groups.io. And, who knows how else the list is going to evolve and all that jazz. So I think that's pretty exciting that we're starting to combine efforts here. I also mentioned we have 2 other cooking related calls, and that is It's Electric, which is the 2nd and 4th Wednesday, I believe, at 7 p.m. Eastern, right after the Blind Since Birth call. And I know the people that do that call, myself and Belinda. Interesting. Okay, you get to know people around here, guys. So we got the It's Electric, where she talks more about the tech side of cooking with electric appliances and things like that. So that is a great call to ask your questions about those. What are recommendations? I am more of a low-tech cook myself, but I do use some gimmicks. And then real quick, we also have Sheila's Recipe Swap, And I think that's the first and third Wednesdays of the month. She also has a list too where she does, the recipe exchanges for each call. And there's different themes and whatnot. We have at least 5 cooking related shows here on ACB. All right, Belinda, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do.
We do. All right. Lucy.
I was just going to tell you that Janine is making Parmesan crisps tomorrow.
Parmesan crisps. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds like it will be good. She really loves it if you're able to bake along with her. I will not be one of those tomorrow. I already know I'd have to get at least the Parmesan, which I currently don't have and don't have the time for even online shopping today. It's really bad. I'm making this sweet chicken treat in the morning and then I'm going to the dentist in the afternoon, so don't tell them.
Okay, you have a couple other raised hands.
All right.
Carrie and her iPhone. This is the Carrie that's with Courtney.
All right, Carrie and Courtney, and I'm assuming your iPhone is coming along for the ride too?
Hi, Herbie. Yes, my iPhone is coming for the ride also. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Hey, so I just wanted to, help you out on that brown sugar issue. When you have that issue, the recipe for brown sugar is 1 cup of sugar to 1 tablespoon of molasses. And that is what brown sugar is truly made out of. So if you run into a pinch, you always have that backup.
How much sugar to 1 tablespoon molasses?
It's 1 cup sugar to 1 tablespoon of molasses.
All right, that is good to know. So if you ever get brown sugar that walks away, get some white sugar and molasses, and that'll be very easy to do. All right, thank you, Carrie. And
All right, thank you.
Yep, and thank you to your iPhone as well, so for allowing me to come on the call.
We have someone with a phone number starting with 571 ending in 917.
Yes, hello. This is Pam from Virginia. I'm the
Pam,
571.
okay.
Hi, how are you, Herbie?
I'm good.
I would like good, great, good recipe. I'd like to ask you about applying the sauce to the chicken. How would you apply that properly? You would, of course, bake it with the sauce, and how would you do it?
So that is a great question. And what I would do is I would bake the chicken. It calls it to be flipped every 10 minutes. I think that's a bit over myself. So what I'm going to do is after it's done, I'm going to take a double spatula, flip each piece of chicken. And then if I'd kept the extra sauce, which there really wasn't that much of anyway, I can do this because I'm really good spatially, but you could use an oven mitt as your guide. Use an oven mitt with one hand so you know where your pan is. And then find the center of the pan, and with the other hand, you can kind of like pour the bowl over the center and it'll just kind of naturally spread out. And then you put the bowl in the sink because you don't want to accidentally expose that to the oven. And then you'll take your pan again, wearing the oven mitt or 2 oven mitts, and put it back in the oven for the additional 23 minutes. It calls for baking for 45 to 60 minutes. So we're doing 22 minutes and then 23 minutes. So that's how I would apply the extra sauce. Otherwise,
Thank you.
Of course, before you baking it, you still roll the chicken in the original sauce before you put it in the oven as well. So
all right, next is Diana.
Hello. How's everybody
Hello.
doing?
We're doing good. How about you?
I'm fine. I missed the cooking temperature.
350.
Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome. I'm really pleased. It seems like there's been a lot of interest in this recipe. So definitely subscribe to that ACB Cooks, and we'll be getting that recipe out to everyone. Now, I was asked kind of to make this. I'm doing it against my better judgment. But in a couple weeks, I'm going to be making a gingerbread brownie recipe. I must admit I don't know what this is going to taste like. I say you do this against my better judgment because this recipe is a little bit more complex than the type I normally like to do on here, but I guess we can give it a try. And we're going to do that. Also, I'm open to requests for future things to consider. Janine and I have talked about collaborating on spaghetti and meatballs, doing our versions of that. I apologize, folks, but I realized we were going to need the extra time. I would have given it to us, but that's okay because we got a very important call next hour that you want to attend. And that is the Morning Coffee Clatch, hosted by none other than our wonderful Cindy Hollis. And if you are new to that call, what it is we go into breakout rooms for 10 minutes and we get, in small groups and get to talk to each other one-on-one. It is a lot of fun. In fact, it's one of my favorite calls because it really got me to know people better in ways than some of the community calls in general do, because you're actually talking and interacting with the person. So for those of you that are maybe listening to the stream, and if you've never called in, this would be a good opportunity. Community@acb.org will add you to the mailing list. Just let them know that's what you would like, as it is a multi-purpose address. So if you email community@acb.org, just let them know that you want to get added to our community call mailing list, and they will be more than happy to get you on there. And you can use the Zoom links or call in, and we have a plethora of calls each day, so on a lot of different topics, including one I will be conducting tomorrow, the online multiplayer game call that I'm starting, where I'll be talking about online gaming platforms, RS Games, and Quincy's Playroom, and I figured out a way where everybody can play along regardless of whether you have a computer or not. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central, 6 Eastern. Hope you can tune in to that. And then some other calls we do have going on today. We've got the ACB book discussion at noon, and then Games to Play with Lady A with Lucy is at 1 Central to her time. That one's definitely a lot of fun.
Okay, so we do have Pam with her hand raised.
All right, Pam.
Herbie, how are you doing again? I'd like to know since the oven, you can, fix this, of course, in the oven. But it's an alternative if, for instance, you have time constraints. Is there a way to adapt this to the microwave cooking? How many minutes could it be done on the microwave?
Okay, that is a very interesting question. First of all, if I was going to do something like this in the microwave, I would not use raw chicken at all. I would use some kind of pre-cooked chicken, like the fajita chicken. Even then, I don't know if it can be done in the microwave. You could try something like bacon or turkey bacon, not use chicken at all and have like garlic ginger bacon. I would use something pre-cooked, and if anybody else has any good tips on this one, I am not a big microwave person myself. I definitely know I would not use raw chicken in the microwave, that's for sure. So you'd have to pre-cook your chicken or something if you were going to do this in the microwave. And so, like I said, you could get some chicken breasts that you cook ahead of time in the oven or form and grill. You can get pre-cooked chicken from the store. You could get like one of those rotisserie chickens, and you bake the sauce in the microwave for a few minutes, pour it over it, maybe bake it, something like that.
That's a good idea, because I've actually fixed a rotisserie chicken in the microwave before, and it's really good. It was about 14 minutes.
Does anybody else have?
Pre-cooked. Thank you.
Yep, the bone, pre-cooked though. Like I said, you don't want to do raw, even not want to do raw in the microwave. Okay, anybody else have any questions or any microwave tips for how you would do that with this recipe?
Lucy.
I agree with Herbie. I don't cook per se, quote unquote, in my microwave. I do a lot of reheating. I cook vegetables. I cooked a meatloaf one time in my microwave. You put it in like a ring mold pan, and I didn't care for it. Maybe I'm old, but I just use my microwave for just a lot of quick things. I don't really cook from the raw state in my microwave. I just don't like it. So I agree.
All right. Well, I think you and I are a little bit different age-wise, but we both agree, even though I grew up in the era of the microwave, I'm not a big fan of it. Well, thank you to everybody who attended the call today. Thank you, Belinda, for an awesome hosting job as always. And thank you, Deb and ACB Media for streaming this call. I very much appreciate it. And I do know people listen to the archives, because somebody mentioned that the other day about hearing my Christmas call on the replay. So this call will be on replay at some point, I have no doubt. So that is totally cool there. And so we will be back in a couple of weeks. I'm working on maybe trying to get this call every week. I have to just figure out what recipes I want to do. That's the only reason why that has not happened just yet. So I will be back 2 weeks from today. Tomorrow, Parmesan crisps with Janine, wake, make, and bake at this very same time. So be sure to tune into that. And if you have the weekly schedule, I know she loves it if you're able to bake along with her. So do that. I know In the Kitchen with Courtney and Carrie is soon going to be every Sunday. And I believe it'll still be at 6 p.m. Central. And I still need to try their techniques for making omelets. Though I think I'm going to go Lucy's route and get an omelet pan. That sounds like it'll be a lot easier.